Democratic Senate candidate Beto O'Rourke picked up a big endorsement in his Texas Senate campaign against incumbent Republican Ted Cruz. The Houston Chronicle endorsed Ted Cruz when he was elected to the Senate 6 years ago, and now the Houston Chronicle is endorsing Ted Cruz's opponent, Robert Francis O'Rourke of El Paso, Texas. Texas has not elected a Democrat to the United States Senate since 1988, when Lloyd Bentsen won his last re-election campaign for Senate in Texas. The Houston Chronicle's editorial endorsement of Beto O'Rourke did not just make the case for O'Rourke. It condemned Senator Ted Cruz, who they endorsed 6 years ago. The editorial says Ted Cruz, a candidate the Chronicle endorsed in 2012, is the junior senator from Texas in name only, exhibiting little interest in addressing the needs of his fellow Texans during his 6 years in office. For Cruz, public office is a private quest. The needs of his constituents are secondary. The editorial quoted former Republican House Speaker John Boehner when he described Ted Cruz as, quote, Lucifer in the flesh. The Chronicle's editorial board said, quote, we enthusiastically endorse Beto O'Rourke for U.S. Senate. The West Texas congressman's command of the issues that matter to this state, his unaffected eloquence, and his eagerness to reach out to all Texans make him one of the most impressive candidates this editorial board has encountered in many years. Imagine how refreshing it would be to have a U.S. senator who not only knows the issues, but respects the opposition, who takes firm positions, but reaches out to those who disagree, who expects to make government work for Texas and the nation. Beto O'Rourke, we believe, is that senator.
So how about some your opinions on some of the other people running for the highest office? How about Ted Cruz?
Lucifer in the flesh. In Washington, I have as many Democrat friends as I have Republican friends. I get along with almost everybody. But I have never worked with a more miserable son of a
Joining us now, Evan Mintz, Deputy Opinion Editor for the Houston Chronicle. Evan, thank you very much for joining us tonight. And this editorial is extraordinary to me for a couple of reasons. One, you're the same newspaper that endorsed Ted Cruz for the United States Senate 6 years ago. I don't think I've ever read more disappointment by an endorsing newspaper in the office holder who they endorsed.
Well, the whole process really was guided by something that Kay Bailey Hutchison told us back in 2012 as she was the outgoing senator. She said that being the senator from Texas is a little bit like being the parent of a teenager. There is always something you have to deal with. And if you're representing a smaller state, Kentucky, Idaho, you have a certain luxury of being able to go off on ideological crusades, and that's fine. But when you're representing Texas, it has to be 100% Texas. And like the parent of a teenager, we're not mad at Ted Cruz, but we are disappointed.
And on the positive side, when you're talking about Beto O'Rourke, you're making the case that even for voters who disagree with Beto O'Rourke, their state will get better representation by him.
Beto has this incredible ability just to go out to places where politicians haven't gone in years. He actually went and saw all 254 counties in Texas, and he listens to people, and he creates these sparks of civic engagement where folks who have never really talked to each other but live in the same neighborhoods discuss what they want the public to be like and what they want their government to be like. And he goes and he listens and he brings that up to Washington. And I think that's something that will really benefit people no matter where you are on the political spectrum.
And when you go back, when you're looking at Senator Cruz and considering how he failed the state, what would you say were the principal ways in which Ted Cruz made it impossible for you to endorse him?
Well, Senator Cruz is incredibly smart. He's a smart man. He is ambitious, and he has political skill. And we saw him use that, for example, in 2013 when he shut down the Senate over Obamacare. But we get frustrated and a little disappointed when it comes time to work for Texas. For example, after Hurricane Harvey, we were having difficulty getting a recovery bill through the House and then through the Senate. And we called on him, do what you did before, shut down the Senate and help us out, bring attention to this cause. And he did not do that. He fights for himself. He doesn't fight for Texas.
And we're going to be joined now by Ezra Levin, who was in our previous segment. He's a Texas native. And Ezra, one of the things that the editorial acknowledged is that Beto O'Rourke is running behind Ted Cruz in the polls, and that it is possible that the Houston Chronicle is not picking a winner this time. But what is your reading of what would need to happen on the ground for the O'Rourke campaign to win?
Yeah, Lawrence, you said it earlier. You know, I was 3 years old when Texas elected the last Democratic senator in 1988. So it is a tough state for Democrats. And that said, the campaign that Beto has been running has just been absolutely incredible. Indivisible did a big launch 100 days before the election for our electoral work. We were working with groups all over the country to run canvases and phone banks and text banks. And I actually went and did a road trip through Texas, visiting with groups who were then working to try to elect Beto, who is an endorsed candidate for Indivisible. I was in Beaumont, Texas with Golden Triangle Indivisible on a Friday night with groups of people that were doing what Evan just described. There was these bursts of civic engagement, people who had never met each other, but were coming together to try to get Beto O'Rourke elected. The next morning, that Saturday morning, I drove to Wimberley, Texas, not exactly a bright blue dot in Texas. So many people turned out for Beto that we ran out of doors to knock on. And one of the interesting things that we're seeing in Texas right now, and the Houston Chronicle highlighted this as well, is that, yes, Beto is lighting the political system on fire in Texas, but it's not even just him. There are a lot of very impressive congressional candidates, Julie Oliver, Sri Preston Kulkarni, and many other congressional candidates who are running honest, positive campaigns in this really negative, dark political climate, and they're attracting a ton of volunteers. So the answer to your question, what is it going to take to win in Texas? It's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take doing that canvassing, doing that phone banking, doing that texting. So anybody who would like to see this supposed blue wave that's coming, it's not coming. It's being built drop by drop. If you want to be part of that, we have 3 weekends left. You got to sign up, find out where you're knocking on doors and making calls. And I want to say, this has actually become a little bit personal for me. My family is based in Texas. They're not really politically active. They haven't done any of this kind of campaign work before. And my sister, she is leading a canvass for Beto in Houston this weekend. So if she can do it, everybody watching right here, you can do it too.
And Evan, as you know, latest poll, CNN, of registered voters in Texas shows a 5-point gap between them, 7-point gap when you go to likely voters. And what has been the reaction so far to you, the paper endorsing Beto O'Rourke?
There's been a lot of excitement, a lot of traffic on our website, and some traffic in the air. Someone flew a plane over our building with a big banner that said, "No Beto, no to socialism," which is interesting because I'm pretty sure he's not a socialist. There are some socialists on the ballot, though. There's a socialist judge here in Harris County, and there's a lot of good other judges in Harris County, Republicans, Democrats, and I just want to take this opportunity to implore people, please read the endorsements, don't vote straight ticket, vote for quality judges no matter whatever party they're in. If we knock out these incredible jurists, that hurts everyone.
I have to say, it's a really well-written and well-considered editorial, both on the Cruz side of the editorial and on the O'Rourke side of the editorial. It is really worth reading for everyone. Evan Mintz, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it. And Ezra Levin, thank you also for joining us. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on the button below for more from The Last Word and the rest of MSNBC.